If it does, as I say, if it does, I certainly will not be
Right.
surprised at all. The Feeding Our Future trial begins today for the organization's founder. I bet John has this in his news, which is fine with me. Aimee Bock is said to, or is alleged to be the founder, and she has a co-defendant, Salim Said. They'll be on trial in the federal fraud scheme. Of 70 charged in total related to the investigation, 30 have already pleaded guilty, and 5 were found guilty by trial last year. Aimee Bock continues to insist that she's just on the up and up. You believe what you want. She's listed as defendant number 1 in the Feeding Our Future indictments. The trial starts today along with Salim Said. Bock is considered the highest profile defendant in a large scheme that prosecutors say used the federal child nutrition program funds they received as a slush fund to enrich themselves rather than to feed children. I remember a couple of years ago when we were just realizing that feathers were beginning to hit the fan here. I went to one of the St. Paul locations that was listed as a distributor of food for the kids. And it was clear to me that it wasn't happening. It was clear to me that it was even the windows were frosted. You couldn't see through the glass, but no one responded to my knock at the door, and it was clear to me that nothing was happening. Jury selection began this morning. In a trial brief filed just a couple of weeks ago, federal prosecutors recapped the case against Bock and Said. It says during the COVID-19 pandemic, Bock and her company recruited individuals and entities to open more than 200 federal child nutrition program sites throughout the state of Minnesota. It also says that Feeding Our Future fraudulently obtained and dispersed more than $240 million from that program. Said, standing trial with Bock, was co-owner of the Safari restaurant off Lake Street in Minneapolis, which is one of the supposed meal sites where kids presumably would have been standing around the block, which never happened. One meal count form, which is used as evidence, shows Safari claimed to feed 6,000 kids per day during 1 week in February of 2021. No one caught that. None of Walz's people caught that. They fed 6,000 kids a day.
That's a lot of food, Joe.
During a week in February of 2021. Not plausible. Didn't happen. As I've said many times, if that happened, that would have led the television news in the Twin Cities. They would have loved nothing more than to send somebody out and film 6,000 hungry kids. Never happened. Prosecutors say little or no meals were served, and the money was funneled to shell companies to be laundered. And BMW dealerships were rubbing their hands together in glee. Here comes another food guy.
Was Aimee getting kickbacks?
That's how I believe Aimee was allegedly getting paid. It sounds to me like what Aimee did, allegedly, is set up the scam.
Yeah.
And she would say to Said, okay, you got a spot here. We need more spots. Let's set up 200 spots.
And they released her from jail, Joe, so she's free, but she doesn't have a passport or anything like that.
So she finds 200 patsies to say, look, you're going to bill them for food, but I get this much. That's how I take it. So whatever Said got for billing for 6,000 meals per day for 1 week, that was probably a couple mil. Aimee allegedly gets her taste from that. But Aimee was getting a take, allegedly, from the 200 bogus operations they set up. Get it?
Got it.
Yeah. And it got so complicated. We were flying in people from Seattle to bribe jurors. It's just fantastic. It's one of the best frauds ever in the history of the country. It was the largest food fraud of the pandemic era by far. And Walls, you have every reason to be proud of that. That's something you might put on your resume, that you presided over the largest food fraud in the country.
I'm sorry.
Many more defendants await trial or may get plea deals. The government has tried to recover money, which they say in some cases disappeared overseas. Only a portion of the funds have been recovered. So far, of the alleged 240 to 250 million lost, only 50 million has been recovered. So,
what's interesting with Walls, you just mentioned all this happened under his watch. He's still trying to sell Minnesotans on the fact that there's people going hungry. He's still hammering on the Feed Minnesota bullshit line.
Kenny, that's exactly what I was going to bring up because he continuously tweets about it. And I think, dude, read the room.
But you guys got mad at me last week when I said if you're hungry in this state, you're an idiot.
Well, that's a harsh judgment.
No, but the larger point I was making, and probably very clumsily, is that we're not short of food programs.
We're not.
I can't go to Mass without bringing a can of beans. You know, you gotta
bring beans, you cheapo.
Well, no, whatever.
Come on, bring some food.
You bring some raviolis or SpaghettiOs and meatballs.
Or we have a second collection for the food shelves. I mean, it's everywhere, which is great. My point is, we got food.
One of the classes we're going to start offering with the Garage Logic tutorial service, is going to be how to be a what is it, Kenny? We're going to teach criminals
how to be a drug mule.
So, the story that I saw this morning with this very T ledger for this one fraudster? You'd think, all right, I want to keep him off the scent, right? I got to come up with some creative numbers. This dummy literally wrote a round number of 6,000 across like 15 straight days. Or months or whatever. Like, you idiot.
Right on the nut.
Well, you know what?
Mix it up.
It worked, though. It worked.
But they finally got caught. But my point is, he didn't even try to be creative with the numbers.
Yeah, with this outfit running the state, you didn't even have to be creative.
I suppose, but you're thinking, just do like 5863.
What an amazing group of people that is. And
you mentioned the storefront, Joe. I'm actually impressed that they went so far as to find some property, even though the windows were frosted and the snow wasn't shoveled.
Well, I'm not sure anybody was in there.
Yeah, but I'm really impressed that they found a storefront with an address.
Well, it wasn't expensive real estate.
I think I know what you're saying.
About 300 square feet.
If that.
Oh, my God.
And I walked all around it. I went to the, looking at the back. Is there a picnic? Because initially I thought this would be a site where kids were fed, but it became very evident to me that no, this must be where they're going to claim that food was loaded on a truck to take somewhere.
Ah, sure.
Because there was no indication whatsoever that anyone had ever eaten anything there.
It's like they have a handbook or something, because you remember we talked to Jay Coles last week about childcare fraud, and he said the same thing.
Yeah.
He went to a few storefronts, and it was obvious there were no kids in there.
What was the line? Oh, they here at night.
Yeah.
Well, he saw some woman drive up and said, well, they're here at night. Oh, okay. Jay said, ha. Sure they are.
Yeah.
Sure they are.
They get here at about 10 p.m.
Honest to Pete.
They're third shift daycare kids.
Jeez. He got a twin in the car.